Hey, welcome back to Bibles and Barbells, where we bend the bar and not the truth. I'm Wes.
I'm Conrad.
And we're excited to have you back in the garage for another conversation. I think today, man, we're going to carry on with kind of youth in sports, right? That's where we're going with this? Yep. I'll let you lead us in here in just a second, but let me pray us in and let's get after it. Lord, thank you for this opportunity. As always, Lord, we are so thankful for your blessings and your grace that we know that we don't deserve. Lord, we ask that you work through us and let our words speak volumes to just one person somewhere in this world, that we can positively affect them for your kingdom. But Lord, affect them while they're here on this earth so that they can move forward in their fitness journey, their health journey, and impact the nations. We ask that you come before us today, Lord, and just protect those who are involved and lead us through this talk, Lord. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, man. Kick us off. Let's give a little preface, though. We started our last episode talking about Simmons' book, right? And just how impactful it is to get your children in sports or active early. 7 to 10, right, is kind of that range that he specified. Mm-hmm. You want to fill us in, give us a little preface into that before we jump into this? And
yeah, so again, this is, we could probably talk about this in
every day, all day,
3 or 4 episodes, Yeah. It's because there's studies done on this, which we'll touch up on one. That's the most recent study that we were looking at. But how we were saying, that 7 to 10 age group, right, is where you kind of, we try to dedicate a broad, based development through that GPP that we talked about, that general physical preparedness.
Yeah.
But there is, you can start them in things even earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Not so much like in terms of sports, but just physical activity, like ages 4 to 5, doing things like, fundamental skills, sure, like running, jumping, throwing.
Well, you think it's something that
catching.
You speaking of that, it reminds me, if you go along any elementary school campus now, there's not a hopscotch on the ground.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And you think about how fundamental that is, being able to hop on one foot, keep your balance, grab the stone, turn around and hop back, right? Like just small fundamentals like that from pre-K all the way into that 6-7-year-old age group. That alone, that's crazy.
Well, and what really actually got me focusing more on like just youth physical activity and younger athletes was I was teaching a course at the university here in town at CSUB, and the class was based on me teaching future teachers how to teach PE and health. So part of it was a lab. So I take them through these, these games in the old gym.
Sure.
I always liked doing it before the lecture portion of the class because they were always way more in tune. So hence more cognitive, right, capability thereafter doing activity. But because I always noticed a little bit sluggish at first when we'd go from lecture to lab.
Sure.
But anyways, so everything we did in that class, it was just all kind of fundamental things like capture the flag, but you make different rules. Okay, you can only skip, you can only hop. And I could not believe these are college kids.
Yeah.
Some didn't know how to skip. Some didn't know how to hop.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, these are kind of like key fundamentals just for movement.
Just
right?
As your child.
So I was like, wow, okay. But I was like, I need to start breaking things down even more for just that level. But I'm like, this is something that we're losing and we need to gain back in just the youth in general, right? Sure. Just good old PE and, getting outside. But now I think what I'm going to do right here, I want to go into the research study.
Yeah.
First, because we're going to dive in a little bit more into like specialization of sport earlier on. And we're going to kind of give you the pros and cons about that. To me, there's a little bit more cons than there are pros, but everybody's a little different. So
we're going where the science leads us.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And some things are controversial, but a lot point. And now the reason I chose this study is because it's looking at other articles, 12 different studies, just under 9,000 different articles that they go through, right? So it's titled Youth Sports Specialization and its Effect on Professional, Elite, and Olympic Athlete Performance, okay? Career longevity and injury rates, okay? So this is a systematic review, okay? So I'm going to read it off for you. There's a background okay, to this research that says limited data are available on the long-term consequences of early sports specialization in high-level athletes, which isn't really the premise of why we're kind of looking into this, but it's good to know either way. The purpose of it was to evaluate the existing literature, okay, on the effects of sports specialization among professional, Olympic, and other elite athletes. We already stated it is a systematic review. So this review of studies was from 1990 to 2021, okay, on youth sports specialization. Now, they give you on the basis, an elite athlete was defined as one who performed at the highest level of his or her sport beyond college level. Okay. The data was summarized according to 6 objectives. Okay. The definition of specialization, okay, age at specialization, and participation in other sports. Okay. Second was motivation for specialization. 3 was athlete perspectives on specialization. 4 was performance data. 5 was specialization and injury risk. And 6 was career longevity. Okay. Like I said, so results were from 8,756 articles. 29 studies were included. Of those 29, 17 were survey-based studies. Okay. And then of the 8 articles that commented on injury risk, all demonstrated reduction in injury risk in athletes who delayed specialization.
So let me pause you right there.
Yeah.
What we mean, what this article and the study means by delayed specialization, it means that the individuals who were performing at these levels did not play one sport year round. They were a multi-sport or multi-activity athlete at that point. So they were not playing, Little League baseball 12 months out of the year. They weren't traveling to play soccer 12 months out of the year.
Yep.
They were taking the seasons as they came and participating in other sports, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So basically, that specialization, you're waiting until after adolescence.
Okay.
It is, I guess, layman terms for it. But it was kind of cool. The conclusion that they found based on the research was that although the current data on sports specialization in those elite professional Olympic athletes are mostly retrospective.
Sure.
Right. And survey-based evidence, most sports demonstrate better performance after youth multi-sport engagement. And youth sport specialization was linked with increased injury risk, which is the biggest premise of kind of why we bring this up is because we're seeing such young overuse injuries in younger and younger athletes. You get a 12-year-old, 13-year-old already having Tommy John surgery.
Or ACL.
Or, that's should not be happening.
No.
So it's interesting to see that they looked at all these different articles and kind of, figured out like, okay, well, X amount agreed with this. There was only a couple that saw some positive in specialization early on. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, but I do feel like if you get your child, into different sports, they carry over to one another.
Absolutely.
Right. So, I'm going from, let's say, football to baseball to soccer, whatever, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Like I was a multi-sport athlete. I did everything. I mean, I did volleyball.
You didn't have a choice though, either. Right?
Well,
like you were one of those kids that were
I just loved
you wanted to do it.
I just loved sports.
Your parents provided you the opportunity to do so. They didn't say, "Hey, you need to focus." And your mom could have very easily done so. As a collegiate coach, she could have said, "Look, your skill set, you're going to run through a brick wall right now because of who you are, what you do." And she could have said, "Put your knuckles in the dirt, get the rock, and run it hard." Right?
For sure.
But she didn't. She said, "Absolutely, Go compete in track and field, which in turn made you a great collegiate athlete, right?
Well, I didn't even do, like, that's the thing, right? So I didn't do track and field until I got into college.
Yeah, see?
And I did all these other sports, but it kind of came, not to say it wasn't easy, because I never, like, I was a thrower.
Yeah.
You know, so I specialized in hammer and shot put through discus, but shot put and hammer, hammer being number one, shot put number two were my favorite.
Makes sense.
You know, and I did some sprinting. You know, I was on, 4x1, which is hilarious as a thrower, but I was back then pretty fit.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I didn't do all those different sports early on, like I wouldn't have been able to just get into that in college, you know, and that's the thing too, is like, I would say Olympic lifting. So like if you're training for the Olympics for, the snatch and the clean and jerk,
sure,
or track and field, those are to me some of those rare sports that you should specialize early on because they are so technical.
Yeah.
But the good thing with that, you can specialize in those things, but you can still do other things with them. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of carryover actually. Like, so say, you're a thrower for track and field, right? Go and play catch.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not going to be like carryover to exactly what you're throwing, but there's still rotation involved.
When I was coaching, we said the same thing. Some of my greatest golfers, right, that were walking the golf course with me, were baseball players, were softball players.
When you see a lot of baseball players are great at golf.
That rotational athlete, that transition, right? So that's what we're trying to say is if you are willing and able to just promote your child in multi-sports, one, it aids in injury prevention, right? So they're not continuously stressing the same muscle tone.
That's the big one.
That's the biggest of all of them. You're also exposing them to new elements of new sports, a new team setting, a new group of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They're learning how to navigate life, right? That's just like work.
Yep.
You're going to get a new team. You're going to join a new team. You're going to be a part of a new organization, right? You have to learn how that functions.
Yeah.
And for those kids, it provides a stronger foundation, like we talked about in our previous episode, that is going to lead to longevity and a more joyful experience for them as an athlete, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
and
it's phenomenal.
I mean, to dive in that a little bit more, so like when we say specializing, right, in sports year round, okay, technically that is defined as training for more than 8 months a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So not necessarily 12 months, but it's the majority of the annual calendar. But that does increase the risk of overuse injuries, like you were saying, especially before puberty. Okay. Now I say that because that's when your muscles and your tendons, they're still developing. So if you're just using, let's say you're a youth pitcher or something, and you're playing continual long toss, which if you had a quality coach, they would not have you doing that. But
correct, yeah.
That's where, right, as you get after that puberty, tendons and muscles are more developed. Yeah, you can handle more.
Correct.
And that's when, if you want to start specializing, that would probably be the best time to start doing that. If that's what you want to do. I still wouldn't promote it, but again, that's my personal opinion, just based on the science that I've looked at, and I've seen. I'm not saying that's necessarily the right way, but you think about the repetitive stress, right? And performing the same motion continuously, right? Again, that's what can lead to those severe injuries, right? So they're not always necessarily all severe, but a lot of them end up being severe, right? I mean, as
career
if you keep going
and
through,
or life altering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, it's I put down so elbow, shoulder injuries are actually kind of a big thing right now in youth baseball.
Sure. You see it right now in the Little League World Series.
Yeah, which obviously isn't a good thing, right? But because having those types of injuries that young, right, used to be rare.
Yeah.
It's not anymore. It used to be. Now, on top of that, right, with those overuse injuries, you also need to bring up the point of burnout. Right? I think when I was reading some research, many children quit by age 11 because the sport is not fun anymore. It feels like a job, so those are aspects you have to take into account as well.
Sure.
And I think that's one of those things that leads into that longevity aspect, obviously.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I knew some absolute phenomenal. I'm like, dude, this guy's going D1.
Yeah, be a stud. Yeah.
Time high school's done, they're done. Yeah. No, they did not play any more sports, and it's because they started so young, and usually their parents were a little bit more, like.
And that was the question I was about to ask you. You hit that, like those burnout kids, right? Granted, we were in a different era where we played multi-sports. Some of those other kids probably did too, who were stud athletes, but they got berated at home, right? Or they just got beat up on by the coaches that they need to do this, X, Y, and they need to focus, they need to train, they need to be specializing in this because that's what's going to get them there, right?
Yeah.
And then they don't even, it turns out by the time they hit 14 years old in high school, where they should be excelling into that, fundamental stage of peak performance, right? That's the early time, right? They don't even compete anymore because they're so burnt out and they don't want to do it.
Well, it's just, it's on top of that physical exhaustion, it's mental exhaustion.
Yeah.
Right? You're just ready to move on and do something else, even though it may have been something that you did love. And then you just kind of, you specialize so early, let's say in one sport, then it's almost like you learn to hate it.
Yeah.
Right, because it's just you're like, this isn't fun. It's just which is terrible. It's sad to see, but it's much more common than it used to be.
Sure.
Like I always say, you're going to get some of those younger athletes that specializing early on can actually be really beneficial for them, right?
Sure.
But I would say those are the rare ones in that group, right? Like I played every sport, but I feel like if I would have specialized in something, I probably would have still excelled. In terms of, physicality and things like that. Now, I was also one of those kids that I gave everything I had every day. So I was just kind of almost prone to little injuries here and there, simply for the fact because I just pushed way past my limit way too often.
You still do that, though.
I do.
Yeah. But that's
a little bit smarter now.
But that's in your DNA, right?
It is.
And that's just that's your makeup.
It is.
And we see that with some kids as well, even today, which I love those kids because they're 100 miles an hour 100% of the time, and we have to rein them back in. We as coaches have to say, hey, you need to slow down. Hey, today it's okay to rest. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And we love those kids, but they are going to be a little bit more injury prone.
They are. And that's the thing too, right? You said it is, rest, right? As you get more and more developed, right? So let's say you're going from beginner to intermediate to advanced to elite, right? Yeah. That rest, aka recovery, becomes more and more and more important, right? Because when you think about training, right, either if you're doing your weight training, you're doing your speed work, you're doing your practice for your sport, right? What you're doing is you're breaking down the body, right? Recovery is where you actually build and grow.
Correct.
Right. So it just becomes more and more important as, the younger we are, we can handle a little bit more like day after day.
Sure.
But when you start, really developing, it's that, I'm telling you, that recovery is like so important, right? It's even like for me to this day, right? I'm knocking on the door of 40.
I'm over it.
In a couple of years. And, there's for a few months out of the year, we do the Sorinex, Squattober, December, Benchuary. I do a sprint timber thing in September. We do December.
We're filling the sleeves.
Fill the sleeves right now with Coach Felt. He's been doing that for a few years. It's good for a good cause. And, that's just fill the sleeves. It's 100 buys, 100 tries. Yeah. Every day for 45 days. Buy a shirt. It goes to a good charity. But that's even like you do that after your workout, right? And so it's like you got to learn to kind of listen to your body a little bit, right? When you feel that CNS, your central nervous system, start to kind of break down, you'll know because you'll be like, one day you'll be like, God, I just don't want to train. You kind of wake up, you're more lethargic than you usually are, and you have to look at it and be like, okay, my central nervous system's telling me like, dude, chill
out.
So sometimes people, they might take a week off, right? And you can still do active recovery things. You don't have to totally take it off, but some do, and they come back after a week and they're like rip roaring ready to go.
Yeah.
Or you dial things down a little bit. So a lot of those things we do, I'd say for me, September to April is I'm training 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Right?
I know you are, because I'm right there with you.
Yeah. And somehow I can go that long. But I have my moments. I'm like, God, this is too much. So when it comes to like May, June, July, August, I kind of try to dial it down a little bit. And I go usually like 3 days a week of actual like weight training.
Sure.
And in those other days, I call it active recovery, but it's really just like some steady state cardio, something like that. But I notice a lot of times when I get to that 3 day split of training that I actually grow more.
Yeah.
Which is, you wouldn't think that, but
you're resting.
You're resting, and everybody's different. I'm not saying that works for everybody, but I've been doing it for so long, and I've done everything under the sun. I've tried all kinds of different routines. I make my own, all kinds of stuff. Right. So again, that's kind of, you learn as you go, what you can handle, what you can't, how much you can handle. Sure. Right. So it's just like, those things though play, like we talked last episode, the earlier on you can kind of gather those concepts, the better.
And that's what I was going at. Like, we as adults, right? You're almost 40, I'm over, right? Like, we've learned what works and what doesn't work for us, right? A child between the ages of 7 and 10 or 5 and 12, they have no idea. They're doing what they're told to do.
Yeah.
They're pushing it to a level that they're told that they should, and it's the only way they're going to be on the team. Mm-hmm. Billy, you're not going to be on the mound unless you throw 65 pitches today. Or they're doing what their parents and or coaches are telling them to do, and I'm going to go out and say it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's wrong. You're going to hurt that child in the long run, and shame on them for doing it, right? And I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of flack for it, and it's fine. I don't care. We'll stand firm in what we believe. Make sure that child's health
is
number the first priority.
Well, and there's a good analogy for this, right? As you know, okay, kids are sponges, right?
Yes.
You as a coach or a parent, you're the water.
Yeah.
Right?
They're soaking it up.
Sponge soaks up all that water. So, it's like, with our toddler, you got to be careful what you say, because they're listening and they'll mimic, and sometimes they'll understand what it is. Sometimes they won't, but they're still mimic it, right? So it also leads to, this is coming from coaches, parents, whatever, is, when you start putting that pressure on that young person, that young athlete, it can actually start to hinder social development too.
Absolutely.
And that kind of that interpersonal growth.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they start missing out on, those diverse experiences of playing, multiple sports, doing different activities. It's like, okay, hey, you got batting practice today. You're not going whitewater rafting. Let's just say you're in a off season. You just got out of season.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, go whitewater rafting. Yeah. Go enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Go, it's important because they need, I read an article and I don't remember it because this is years ago, but I remember distinctly it was certain orthopedists that were kind of big time orthopedists, worked on a lot of athletes and stuff. And they were saying the best time off from the sport was anywhere from 4 to 6 months. But they said, obviously you can't do that, especially at a more elite level. But they said at youth level, it's way doable because go and play other sports, do other things. And this is coming from these top tier, surgeons. Sure. And they said, so like say you're at a higher level, they're saying if you can take, anywhere from, I believe it was a month to 3 months is very helpful.
Sure.
But because they understood. It was kind of cool because you could tell they understood. Like, we know you're not going to be able to do
exactly, yeah,
half of the year off of your sport, especially as you get more advanced. But
it's unrealistic, yeah.
But youth, absolutely, you gotta. It's a thing like we talked last episode. You have to make it enjoyment out of it, right? Yeah. Keep it fun. You know, and I'm not pushing like, don't be. You know, we don't want to raise like soft kids or soft athletes.
That's the last thing we're pushing. We want them to be mentally, physically tough.
Yes, I'm not saying that, but they need those experiences.
Yeah.
All those wide variety of experiences. You know, if you hone them in on one thing, again, you're knocking on the door of burnout early on. Mm-hmm. You know, I've seen it personally. Mm-hmm. You know, and I've never experienced it because I played all different sports, but you know, it's just seeing it was kind of crazy because I was like, oh my gosh, like you could tell.
Sure.
You know, and I'm talking these, you know, 11, 12, 13-year-olds are like, coach, I'm done.
Well, I mean, I look at it from not just a coaching standpoint, and obviously we're always going to throw in kind of the biblical aspect as well, right? I mean, we're put into seasons for a reason, right? Yeah. Like, I think of that, like, sports go in seasons. They go in a transition of seasons. Mm-hmm. We go from fall to winter to spring to summer, right? Mm-hmm. Sports are the same. There's a reason that, you know, where we're coming up on, there's a reason football is played in the fall and not in the winter or not in the spring, right? It's a fall sport, right? Baseball is a spring kind of summer sport. Granted, now it's an annual sport because of the way culture is.
Yeah.
However, that is not how it was intended, right? Like, and I think what people don't understand from where I stand on the biblical aspect, it pulled it out today when we were talking about this and taking notes, but I look at Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, right? I'm going to equate that and bring that back into what you were saying and the fact that let kids be kids. Let them experience the season. Let them encounter different personalities, different people, different experiences, and let an off season be an off season.
Yeah.
Let them go whitewater rafting, like you said.
I mean, that's the thing is, right? You should be more of a guide. In terms of, you know, let them kind of make choices, but guide it, you know, in terms of like, if they want to keep doing that, be like, hey, great. But you could be like, you know, have you ever thought about trying this or, you know, what? And sometimes I'll be like, oh, well, no, I actually kind of like to try it and be like, okay, let's give it a go. And if you don't like it, then boom. Okay. Next year we can do this route, you know, whatever. But, you know, I truly believe, you know, participating in multiple sports I think it fosters more overall athleticism.
I agree.
Right? Because you're moving in different ways, you know, you're playing at different speeds, you know, so I just think various sports, it develops a broader range of fundamental skills.
Sure.
Right? So, you know, things like coordination, balance, agility, strength, right? Again, what are all those things crucial for? Athletic development, right? So it's skills learned in one sport, right, are often gonna transfer to other sports.
Oh, it's gonna get your ability, your athletic prowess is gonna get sharpened by that, right? Like you're gonna be able to hone in on movements that other athletes who are singular athletes, specialized athletes, have no idea what they're doing, because you can cut, you can do whatever it may be, and the transfer of the body weight makes sense to you because you played another sport. Exactly.
So, I mean, and think about it too, like this can increase your like problem solving skills, your sport IQ, teamwork abilities. So there's more than just that physical portion.
Absolutely.
You know, and again, you know, we're not saying if somebody's doing this a totally different way that that's the wrong way. No. I'm not saying that, but it's something that you should think about.
Absolutely.
You know, just like I'm open to all kinds of things. I'm always going to listen to other coaches and say, I'll be like, hey, you know, that's not a bad idea. You don't have to agree with everything.
No.
but you should be open-minded. I feel like coaches that are closed-minded, like if somebody tells me that and they're not open about something, that's like you've officially kind of lost my, my focus either in what you're saying or, you need to be open. Like, so if somebody I say, all right, Wes, like there's 2 different ways to do this exercise, right? I like to do it this way. And you're like, well, I like to do it this way. Now, if you can say, I like to do it this way because,
exactly, and
back it with, I'm going to, with data or whatever, or how it feels for you, then I think it's great because it opens a conversation and, you can try it out. You try my way, I try your way. And I'm like, oh man, yeah, I did feel that, a little bit more in whatever area it's working, so let's say like good would be like a dumbbell pullover.
Sure.
Right. So there's one way you can do it where you lay long ways on the bench, right? So you don't necessarily have to be as braced as if you were on it horizontally, where you have to keep your hips up and keep them active.
Yep.
Right. And what I mean by active is like the glutes are in and your hip.
They're activating. They're firing off. Yeah.
Everything's level. Your hip's not dipping down. Right. So there's different aspects of that. Some people like it long way, some the other way. And guess what? They're both the right way.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's not, that's what I mean. So you got to be open-minded because we can always learn something. Nobody knows everything.
No.
You know what I mean? But that goes for parents, coaches.
Yeah.
Obviously kids don't know everything. They're learning. We're still learning.
Yeah.
So that's what it kind of brings me back to guide your kids, guide your athletes, right? It's, you want to be a quality coach it's kind of what it is. You're being a good guide.
Sure.
Right. I mean, it's, and again, we're not talking even specifically to sport per se. It's also life.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's, that's what the beautiful thing about, I think sports, especially team sports, is there's such a pretty awesome carryover in terms of lifelong skills and learning.
Correct.
Like we had talked earlier in that other episode about, time management, organization, all those things, right? Because your team, they need to rely on you. You need to rely on your team. Football's a great analogy because everything has to move just right for one play to work.
Yeah. You've got 11 guys on the field. That
is so much trust.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think about it that way, I mean, think about what you're learning from that.
No, I agree.
I
mean, I look at those fundamental things, and it's like we said, there's not one way to do it.
Yeah.
In anything we do, right? Especially coaching, especially athletics, and the foundation principles of that, right? But I look at the experiences that kids are going to get if you just let them do.
Yeah.
And guide, like you said, just guide. If your kid comes home and says, hey, I want to play basketball this year. Okay.
Yeah. And you can set those, whatever you want to call them, standards, and be like, well, hey, if you're going to do this, you're going to finish it.
Absolutely.
You're not quitting halfway through. If you don't end up you're going to finish it,
I said last episode that I was talking about my wife and our daughter, our oldest, and she's not yet fully bought into the athletic scene, right? And that's fine. She's within that window, right? But she came home this week and talked to mom and said, hey, I want to play volleyball this year at her school. And the first thing Carly asked was, okay, what do you want to do it? Are you sure you want to do it? And she's like, well, yeah. And then the conversation came up. Well, do you think such and such or so-and-so is going to do it? And this is why part of the reason I love my wife. She said, whether they do it or not does not matter. If you do it, you're doing it 100%, and there is no movement. You're going to go to practice. You're going to play. You're going to compete, because it does not matter whoever else is competing. But if you're doing it 100%.
Yes.
The buy-in is all there.
Well, and think how you kind of said that, if so-and-so does it or not, that
should not determine
why you do or don't do something.
Exactly.
And it's kind of funny. I saw this phenomenal video actually this morning. It was kind of cool because it just made so much sense. So this guy's doing this deal with. I was actually a youth athlete.
Okay.
and says, okay, stand up on this chair. And he goes, try and pull me up. Right? Real hard. Pulls her down. Oh. And he goes, see how easy it is to pull somebody down and to pull somebody up?
Yeah.
So again, right then and there, teaching them those things, you're kind of guiding them to be more of a leader.
Yeah, you gotta set yourself apart
than a follower. And that analogy was so good because it's easily understandable. Yeah. You know, a young athlete could definitely understand that, right? When you put it in context. So I was just like, wow, that's really cool. I might have to use that with some of the college kids. You know
how powerful that is, and that not just in athletics but in life. You could use that in any elementary school classroom, any high school classroom right now. Have them stand on a desk and say, hey, pull me up, right? And you think about that. If your child is dependent on their friends competing in the athletics, whatever that sport is, then they're always going to be dependent. But if you teach them, hey, this is for you, you're building into you, we're going to do it 100% if you choose to, regardless of who's in it. Man, that's just teaching them a leadership quality that other people will gravitate towards later.
Well, like we said earlier, it's going to, that's going to be more development towards interpersonal growth.
Correct.
And all these things that, we kind of don't really think about at a very young age,
No, you don't.
We want to make everything more skill-based. Now, that's not all coaches. I've seen some phenomenal youth coaches.
There are some
incredible.
Great,
and those kids learn so much.
Absolutely.
And they love it, and so it's like, I see that and I'm like, oh man, I hope I'm like that as a coach, and as a parent.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I want to, like my daughter, I introduced things like when she was really little, I was working out, still do, early in the mornings. Yeah. And I had a buddy coming over that was training with me, and my daughter still wakes up pretty early, but she would come out, and my wife's like, no, let him work out. And I said, no, she could come out you know. So, and she'd walk up to the bar and act like she was going to lift it up, and so this is a little 1 to 2 year old at the time, and so I was like, it's kind of, that's where that introduction is starting.
They see it.
I want her to understand, like, well, my dad and my mom lift, I want to try that. And,
they gauge the importance. They see you doing it, right?
Exactly.
You talk about being that sponge.
Well, right. That's being a leader too.
Yeah. You're leading by example and saying, hey, this is valuable for the longevity of our life.
Yes.
And you're building into her, right? So I look at that on the other side of things, parents and coaches who have the high expectations for those children that are competing, but they're not showing them how to.
Yeah.
They're not leading them. They're not guiding them. They're just getting them in the car on the way home and say, oh, why'd you strike out? You did this wrong. You did this wrong. You did this wrong. We're going to go to the cage and work on BP, or we're going to go, and we're using baseball. Sorry, baseball families. It's just a real easy. It's a much easier analogy. Yeah. Or you see these coaches or parents that are harping on these kids at such a young age, which in turn they're not showing them how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. If you show and mentor, the kid's going to be more likely to be successful and joyful when they're doing it. Right. Yeah. Like they're going to find the joy in it because they see you. I mean, I think I posted maybe a week ago on our social media that I was out here and our youngest River, our little guy, he was out here and it was early in the morning and he was sitting on the bench and I was deadlifting. He was right behind me just watching me. Yeah. He didn't say a word. It was early. He's just sitting there staring at me. But we will never discourage them being around us while we do those things because it's important for them to see us do those hard things and build that foundation.
Well, and think about, like for your son, right, for River, you're showing them, how to be what I would say a strong, good man.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you lead your family religiously, right? Biblically, we should be religious leaders to our families.
Absolutely.
Right? But you're showing them strength. Dad's out here doing the hard thing, and then for your daughter, right? She's seeing like, oh, this is, and that might carry over when she gets older. She's getting ready to marry. I know she got a long time, obviously, but
I pray
she can be like, you're going to be the person that, every man, when she's older, dates, ends up marrying, whatever. It's going to be based on you, her dad, right? And so it's going to be like, well, I don't know. He doesn't he doesn't really like to do anything. He's kind of lazy. You know, my dad was like up at 3, he's like getting his lift in and worked hard. And, you know, so even young, you know, because obviously all those things are not in the picture until much later on, but it's there. Right. Yeah. And those are things that, you know, are remembered with or without knowing, you know, so it's again, that kind of leads to that, how you need to be the leader. You know?
And I mean, and you saying that, you know, gets me a little emotional, which is easy to do. Obviously I'm crying at SPCA commercials, but
that's easy to do.
Yeah. And we're both softies we lift heavy things and we pet dogs, right? Yeah. That's what we do. But, man, I talk about I feel like we've been harping on the parents who are singular with their children on sports. And as you said, you know, your daughter's going to use you as a comparison, right? As is yours. I pray that our faults don't stick.
Yeah.
I pray that what our children see is how we led them from a biblical standpoint, a mental standpoint, a physical standpoint that we're talking about here. And I pray that they see how we treated our spouses.
Yeah.
How we treated the guy that was walking down the street who was struggling in life, right? Those are the things that I think, as I revert back to what we're talking about here, a child who has multi-sport exposure gains because they get impacted by so many other people, so many other families, so many other coaches, and it allows different leadership styles and qualities to feed into their character development. And you and I are big on character, right? We're big on that, and the fact that we look at these singular sport athletes who are just dripped out in gear as it relates to their sport, and they can't communicate outside of knowing statistics of that sport, right? Or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Man, I feel sorry for those kids sometimes because you're missing so much more in life. You missed a huge opportunity to be a part of something else. And you probably would have failed. Sadly, you probably would have, but you would have grown a lot more in that failure. Right. And man, I just want to encourage those parents, like, get your kids in other things. Don't.
Well, you know, they don't just have to be an athlete. If they were interested in music, art, you know, I mean, a lot of people don't know it, but I played alto and tenor sax. Right, started in 4th grade when we could first started playing an instrument at school. Went all the way through high school and played in jazz band.
Yeah,
I like music and I like the sax, but I was a big athlete. And I was known as a jock.
Sure,
and a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah,
you know, but I was always, you know, and I love music. I love listening to music. You know, so I'm a big, you know, like my daughter does. I play her all kinds of different music. I mean, she went through a big Rammstein phase for like 2 months, right? Now she's in this her cousin showed her Crazy Frog, so she's into this Crazy Frog stuff, but it's pretty, but it's upbeat like music, you know, but she's into that stuff, and she's really into like doing stuff with slime and likes to paint little thing, all those things. But
she's a kid though too. Well, experiencing different things.
Yes. I mean, that's all it really is. It's like we said earlier, it's just introduce, guide. More or less though, they're gonna make the decision, and you're just gonna help them be like, but you know, you don't quit on something, right? You got to finish this out
always,
you know. But in terms of what we're talking about, kind of carrying on from that book, The Rule of Three, you know, last thing I'm gonna say on it is, I mean, we've kind of bounced around a bunch, but that doing those, you know, multi-different sports in terms of developing your physicality, right? But let's say how we were just talking about doing art and music and stuff like that, right? Let's say, okay, there's a, you know, maybe you're going to I don't know, it's like you're going to a camp for music or art, whatever it is, right? But you're like, oh man, well, I'm going to miss like a week of like baseball or football practice or soccer practice. You know, and I'm like, for me, I would be like, go to the camp.
Yeah.
You're a kid. You're not, in the scheme of things, that week is very small.
Yeah.
You know, like, are you going to remember that a year from now, even months from now? No, you might remember that camp years from now and be super thankful you went to it, because maybe it struck something with you that's more important to you than sports or whatever. So, you know, when we talk about it, and we're specifically talking about, you know, young athletes, right? It's more than that, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's those, like we did touch upon a little bit, those lifelong lessons, right? You know, kind of how to think for yourself, and, you know, but I think that's important, you know, and if they want to do something, you should support that.
Yeah.
And let them try it. It's not going to hurt. You know, if anything, it's going to be better. You're going to try something. Because the last thing I want is for my kids to say, what if? Like, I thought about doing this, but my dad, you know, was like, well, yeah, but you know, you're doing this, you know, and that's what we're going to stick with. You know, so I never want them to have any kind of what ifs, I get, you know. Now, if they do when they're adult, that's on them. Sure. But it's my job, you know, to give them those experiences, show them that love and support that they need, you know, maybe in a sport or whatever they pursue.
Sure.
You know, maybe they want to be an underwater basket weaver. Sweet. You're going to be the best underwater basket weaver there's ever been, you know? Yep. So, I mean, that's the last thing I want to say, but I think it's important, like we said last episode, is just be there and be present and let them, they need to know at those younger ages that you're going to support them and what they want to do, you know? And it's like, even now, my daughter does something she knows she's not supposed to do. Like, yeah, I'll get mad at her, you know, but I try to stay calm, and I'll be like, you know what? But when everything's done, I'll be like, hey, I love you.
Always.
After everything. You know what I mean? So it's just, and coaches can kind of be the same way. You don't have to say I love you as an athlete, but, you know, you can be like, positive reinforcement, I guess is where I'm getting. You know, as a coach, be like, hey, like, those were some good swings, you know, or that was a great shot at goal.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can be like, but do you understand, you know, why you missed it? Or, you know, and they might be like, no, I'm not sure. And I'd be like, well, so we'll work on this in practice, but this is kind of why that happened. And they're like, oh, awesome. And they're looking forward to working on that because you came at it in a positive manner. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that goes for everything, you know?
Well, I mean, that positive affirmation transfers into adulthood.
For sure.
You tell me one experience at work where the boss comes in and says, hey, Conrad, you did a phenomenal job. And you're like, I missed the mark. Yeah, but you did a great job. We just have to tweak a thing or two and we'll make it happen next time. Man, that gets you, like you said, excited to grow, to work on it. And yeah, I look at that as, man, like you were saying, just be present with them. Be in it and let them experience those things. And you touched something, and this will be my last note on it, but it's like regret is debilitating. Yeah. Don't let your kids have regret. And don't regret as an adult, right? Because, you know, we're not getting any more time. God is not going to give us any more time. So be present and don't regret making new experiences. Be in those seasons, flow through those seasons together, be committed to what you say, right? Let your word be your principle and be firm in your word and follow through. Follow through. And it's going to make for a more richer experience, right? Both learning and not, but you're going to have just a better understanding of life then. For sure. So absolutely. I think it's a positive thing, man.
Absolutely.
Well, anything else before we jump out? Like,
I think we touched it. I had some more things I wanted to go off of that last episode, and so I got it out.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, again, you want to promote that book?
I don't have it on me. It's in my office at work, but it's called The Rule of Three. It's by Louis Simmons. Yeah. Based on the old Soviet Union method that he Americanized, and we kind of talked about what that means. But it's a great book, and I would suggest reading it. It's a very easy read. It's even got some pictures in it later on. So this is how things should look. Sure. Kind of deal. So yeah, I would, and it's cheap. You can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a great book.
West Side Barbell, their website too. You can get it there too.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So, well, I appreciate it. And I think if anybody out there has any questions as far as youth sports and getting your children involved in youth sports and the best time, the best practices, the best principles, and maybe something that we said, triggered you a little bit, message us, talk to us, make a comment. We're open to hearing your approach. We're open to supporting you and figuring out maybe what the best method is for your child and your athlete. But that being said, man, let me pray us out, and we'll get them out of here. Lord, we thank you for the many blessings that you provide us, Lord, as always. We thank you for the continued opportunity to preach the truth. We thank you for just the spirit in which you've instilled in us to help others along their journey, both them and their children, Lord, so that we can maybe build in not just a foundation of strength, but biblical principles through that strength, Lord. We ask that you guide our listeners and viewers, Lord, and guide this team as we move forward and look forward to the next episode, Lord. And we pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Again, always, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. If something in this resonated with you, please like, share, subscribe, do all the good things that you know how to do on social media. And as always, right? Bend the bar, not the truth. Thanks, guys. See you next time.